Fearscape Media Network, exploring the unknown, one podcast at a time. Fearscape Paranormal Podcast, part of the Fearscape Media Network. Prepare to be spooked. New episodes every Wednesday on all major podcast platforms. Find out more at fearscapepodcast.com.
Ghosts in the Attics, Bodies in the Basements may contain graphic, violent, vulgar, or explicit content not suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Ghosts in the Attics, Bodies in the Basement. I'm Anna.
And I'm Lindsey. Come on inside.
Okay, so you guys got a little sneak peek of our bonus episode if you had a chance to listen to it. If not, after you get done listening to this one, go one episode back and listen to our special Friday the 13th episode.
On
it was
episode
really fun.
13.
Yeah, episode 13, Friday the 13th.
It all worked out perfectly.
Kismet. So, that being said, what have you been up to lately?
Oh, not much of anything, like school. So it's adjusting to that back to school life.
Yeah, my kids started school the day after yours, so it's just been kind of getting into the routine of everything, the chaos of
back to school nightmare traffic.
Ugh. Thankfully, I haven't had to deal with that because he rides the bus, but
that's all a meme. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say there is this struggle of my body has been getting up for whatever reason at 5 o'clock in the morning for weeks now. School starts up, it's like, nah, fuck it, homie, you're gonna sleep. No.
Oh no, that is like my fear. My oldest is in 5th grade and we have only ever way overslept one time somehow. And that was last school year, and it was a panic and we made it out the door, and they were kind of late, but not late enough where the parents had to go sign them in. It was just the teachers and staff outside were like, hurry up and get to class.
It's like, yeah, we fucking know.
Right. But I saw a meme circulating on social media, and it was like that car pickup line will have you wanting to just leave your kid there till the next day.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. Like, I went with you whenever I surprised you for your birthday down to what were we trying to do? To go to Party City. And let's just put it this way, people. If you went shopping on tax-free weekend, God bless you, because we went on accident to a store.
Yeah, we just had to go pick up something from Party City.
Horrible idea.
Oh my gosh.
It took 15 minminutes to park, and then like
there was no parking.
20 minutes to get out of the parking spot once she got done in the store. It was crazy.
It was awful. I don't like going places on the weekend period because of the traffic.
Right.
But then finding out it was tax-free weekend after the fact, it's like, oh
yeah, when you factor in the don't have to pay as much for products, people go wild, and we found that out the hard way. We're like, why
I'd rather
so
pay the
busy?
extra money. I understand that sometimes every single penny counts. Been there plenty in my life.
Well,
but
I guess
sometimes
maybe
it
makes it if like you only have like one kid versus like 12. I exaggerated because not everyone has that many kids. Hopefully, that sounds painful. But like if you have a bunch of people in your family, or like you need more clothes,
and it really adds
your kid needs clothes, it really does add up at some point.
For sure. Like no judgment for the people who have to go shopping on tax-free. It's just I
prefer
would
not
rather
to
do anything else.
Yeah,
just personal preference.
I'd rather dry shave. Ugh.
Oh God. Ouch. I think I would rather endure the traffic than that. But
I was just being a smart ass.
No, I know, but
there's no bigger pain than dry shave. No, the shaving part doesn't hurt as bad. It's the after fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Ouch.
We haven't been doing much here. Like I said in my bonus episode, I got a job. I start that this week, and I have to drive 2 hours away to where my boss is located because it's a remote job. Plus I'll be working in like a specific area, but I have to drive 2 hours away. So I've been sitting there with you on phone this morning trying to figure out when exactly I need to leave my house. There's so many different routes to take. Like
that's just where we are so the same person though, because the unknown.
Oh yeah, no,
I can't be late.
Nope.
The only times, because you know, there's the joke of like, oh, moms are always late. No, here's the thing. You want to know why I'm late now? It's my kids.
Yeah. Oh,
and even then, we're not. We're very rarely ever actually late. It's just late in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I can't be late. Like it stresses me out to the 9th degree. Not to mention it'll be my first day of work, so I really can't be late.
Extra layer. Yeah. You're gonna end up being like an hour early, which is, in my opinion, I would rather be an hour early.
I would rather be an hour early and listen to a podcast in my car.
Yeah, exactly.
Than be fucking any kind of late.
It stresses me out so bad. And like it's so bad for me personally on not wanting to be late that if I get it in my head that I have to go somewhere, even if it's just like, I feel like going to the store today just to look around, I start rushing myself. We're like, oh my God, like we need to get out the door. What schedule are you on, Lindsey?
Right. Yeah, I can't be late, but I mean, that's okay. I think we figured out the traffic stuff that I need to live like 2-ish hours, 2.5 hours early.
Just to be safe. Yeah.
Just to be safe, to make it there on time. But that's all right. It's just been my main focus is like, what can I do to make sure I don't screw this up type stuff, you know, anxiety for the win. I get this
You'll do great. You'll do great.
Where if I know somebody's coming over, but they don't give me a time frame, I'll make it to where I don't do anything like dishes, laundry. Like I can't.
I don't know. It's called something.
Yeah, it's anxiety brain is what I call it. Like
it has to do with ADHD. So I remember because you've been diagnosed and we suspect I have it. I remember we found like a video that explained what that is called, and I can't remember what it was, but it's an actual thing where you feel like. I think I've talked about this before, like how I'll feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just so busy today. And then when I sit down and like actually look at I really only had 2 things, but because they happened at certain times, I felt like I couldn't do anything but those things.
It like paralyzes me with like crippling anxiety to where I can't do anything. It's so fucking fun.
Right.
Or
it's like, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. I have to get ready. If this event's happening in 5 hours. I
get ready way early for everything. It's crazy. And like I had a secondary interview and I got ready for it. My interview time was like 11, 9:30, something like that. I don't remember, but I got ready like 3 hours before my interview to be ready for my interview. Like there's no need.
The idea of being unprepared or late or anything. It's like how you said it's a 2-hour drive. Anything can happen in that 2-hour drive. There could be traffic, there could be a car accident, there could be a road stop for some reason, there could be construction that wasn't listed on the GPS. Like,
yep. And that's where
other people think this way, or our brains just wired different.
I think we are just wired weirdly, because a lot of people that I've talked to are like, you're crazy. You know that, right? I'm like, no, I'm fully aware. This is how my brain functions. I don't know another way to make it work. And even though I'm on ADD medication, it doesn't change the way my brain has been wired for so many years.
Right. Yeah.
Like you would think being on the medicine would be like, oh, all better. No, not even close.
Well, I mean, so many years of your neuron being have a certain way. I'm pulling terms out of my ass, but you know what I mean?
Right. The neurodivergence is strong with this one. But all right. So I go first this week, I'm pretty sure. And I'm covering true crime.
Mm-hmm. What are you covering?
I'm going to be covering the case of Aileen Wuornos, or as she preferred to be called, Lee.
Oh, okay.
And you may have heard about her through the movie Monster. And I'll get into that. Yeah, it has Christina Ricci in it, and it has Charlize Theron. It's a good standalone movie if you don't know that it's based on true crime, and I'll get into that a little after the case.
Okay, so I've never seen it.
Aileen Wuornos was born Eileen Carol Pittman in Rochester, Michigan on February 29th. Her mother was Diane Wuornos, and her father was Leo Pittman, and the mother was 14, the father was 16. They had one older child named Keith who was born in 1955, so just like a year before her.
Why they're having 2 kids?
Yeah, 2 kids at that young of an age has got to be like a hell of a struggle. And to get married so young has got to be a hell of a struggle. But less than 2 years after their marriage and 2 months before Aileen was born, so it was before she was ever born. Sorry, I was wrong. I misread my notes. Eileen's parents filed for divorce. When Wuornos was nearly 4 years old, so when Aileen was almost 4 years old, her mother abandoned her children, leaving them with her parents, Lori and Britta. That's an odd name for a man. Wuornos. Both were alleged alcoholics.
Oh, that's like,
yeah, it's
tragic.
Awful.
Tragic situation for everybody.
Yeah, I say alleged because I mean I can read things from the internet, but that doesn't mean that they are actually true.
Right.
But they were allegedly alcoholics, and they adopted Keith and Aileen on March 18th, 1960. By the age of 11, Aileen began engaging in sexual activities in school in exchange for cigarettes, drugs, and food.
11.
I have
a 10-year-old.
That's horrifying.
Oh my gosh. That's
for
awful.
I mean, if it was for food was like the only reason, I mean, that's still really sad. But then you throw in cigarettes and drugs, it's like, well, her life was rough. She also had engaged in sexual activities with her brother. Yeah, let that sink in for 5 seconds. Wuornos said that her alcoholic grandfather sexually assaulted her and beat her when she was a child. Now, if that's actually true, that might be why she was so promiscuous at such an early age, because sexual abuse can cause people to become more sexually active at an earlier age, but that's still heartbreaking.
Where it's more, there's a word for it, not age appropriate.
Right. Let's see. At 14, she became pregnant after having been raped by an accomplice of her grandfather's. That's heartbreaking and horrifying. And if the grandpa was in on it, that's even worse. She gave birth to a baby boy in a home for unwed mothers on March 23rd, 1971. The child was placed up for adoption. A few months after her son was born, she dropped out of school. About that same time, her grandmother died of liver failure, and her grandfather threw her out of the house at just 15 years old. And she began supporting herself as a sex worker, and she was living in the woods near her old home. That's so heartbreaking.
Just one thing after another her whole life.
Mm-hmm. At 18, she was arrested in Jefferson County, Colorado for a DUI, disorderly conduct, and firing a .22 caliber pistol from a moving vehicle.
Oh,
yeah, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
She never appeared for court. In 1976, she hitchhiked to Florida, where she met 69-year-old yacht club president Louis Gratfell, and they married quickly. Then they announced their nuptials was printed in the local newspaper and society pages, and Wuornos continually involved herself in confrontations at the local bar and went to jail briefly for assault. She also hit Fell with his own cane at not cool, leading him to gain a restraining order, rightfully so, against her within weeks of their marriage. Just within weeks, she was.
How old was she at this point?
It's 76, so I think she's like 18 or 19 years old at this point. And so, I mean,
no older than 20 though.
Yeah, this guy is 69. She's well beyond young in the grand scheme of like brain development, but that life she's led up till now has been really rough. It's
been chaos.
Chaos and heartbreak and just trauma after trauma. So he gained that restraining order against her. Within a few weeks of their being married, she returned to Michigan, where on July 14th, 1976, she was arrested in Antrim County and charged with assault and disturbing the peace for throwing a cue ball at a bartender's head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Have you ever been hit with a pool ball?
No, but those things are so hard. I've dropped one on my foot before.
Growing up, whenever we'd go down to my mom and papa's house, we'd go to my great aunt's house, and they had a pool table, and we played this game. We were kids; we didn't know how to play pool.
Oh,
is it
where
like
you throw the ball? Yeah,
you
like you throw the ball,
like hitting them.
Yeah, we used to play that as kids too.
We've had fingers smashed with pool balls. They hurt. I can't imagine having one launched at you.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I am certain of it. So she moved back, got arrested. And on July 17th, her brother Keith died from esophageal cancer.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So in that same year that she moved back in 1976, her brother died from esophageal cancer. And Aileen, or Lee, received $10,000 from his life insurance policy. Wuornos and Fell annulled their marriage on July 21st after only 9 weeks. And in August 1976, Wuornos was given a $105 fine for drunk driving. She used the money she inherited from her brother to pay the fines, and spent the rest within a 2-month span buying luxury vehicles, which she wrecked shortly afterwards. Just living it up, buying anything she wanted, basically.
Yeah.
Instead of, this was her chance to like start on a fresh foot. Nope. On May 20th, 1981, Wuornos was arrested in Edgewater, Florida for armed robbery. I can't talk today. I've had no Red Bull. I spilled half of it on myself, so that's how my day is going.
Oh,
in Edgewater, Florida, she was arrested for armed robbery after robbing a convenience store where she stole, are you ready? 35 whole dollars and 2 packs of cigarettes.
Oh,
I never
not worth it.
I never understand it.
It's not worth it.
Right? She was sentenced to prison on May 4th, 1982, and released June 30th, 1983. On May 1st, 1984, she was arrested again for attempting to pass forged checks at a bank in Key West. Now, on November 30th, 1985, she was named suspect in the theft of a revolver in Paso County. January 4th, 1986, she was arrested in Miami and charged with car theft, resisting arrest, and obstruction of justice for providing identification bearing her aunt's name. So she had stole her aunt's identity at this point.
Oh, great.
The Miami police officers found a .38 caliber revolver and a box of ammunition in the stolen car. And on June 2nd of 86, Volsa, I hope I'm saying that right, Volsa County Department Sheriff's detained her for questioning after a male companion accused her of pulling a gun on him in the car, demanding $200. She was found to be carrying spare ammunition, and police had also discovered a .22 pistol underneath the passenger seat that she had been occupying.
And when she shot out the window, Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
it's really not relevant. I just noticed the caliber is the same.
Right. So around this time, Aileen met Trina Moore. She was a hotel maid, and she was in a Daytona Beach bar for lesbian women. And they moved in together. Wuornos supported them with her earnings as a sex worker. But on July 4th of 1987, Daytona Beach police detained her and Moore at a bar for questioning regarding an incident in which they were accused of assault and battery on someone with a beer bottle.
Oh, dang.
Mm-hmm. Like, this lady has led the most insane life.
One thing after another.
One thing and then another. And
it started out really sad. And like that is horrible things that happened to her. But like, it just keeps escalating. And it's like, at this point, you're doing it to yourself.
Right. So that was July 4th of 87. March 12th of 88, Wuornos accuses a Daytona Beach bus driver of assault, and she claims that he pushed her off the bus following a confrontation. Moore, her girlfriend, was listed as a witness in the incident, and up until execution, Wuornos claimed that she was still in love with her, like with Trina. So I'm just gonna say Moore. because I'll get names wrong all day. She stayed up until she was executed that she was still in love with Moore. All right. So if you think all of that is nuts enough, we haven't even gotten to the fact that she's murdered people. Yeah. A convicted, sentenced to death, and executed murderer. So you wonder when all that starts. Starts in 1989. She murdered 7 men within a 12-month span.
Oh my gosh, that is like some intense serial killing. That's
insane. That's like she's on like a scavenger hunt of bodies. Like, I can't deal with this. Like,
literally, is that considered a killing spree?
I believe so. In my research, they didn't name her as a spree killer. They just named her as a serial
spree
killer.
Might be
same day,
like a shorter amount of window.
Maybe.
But it feels like a year should be considered a spree because that's a lot. I mean, any murder's a lot.
I mean,
but
that's a significant amount of people in
a short span.
It's almost a body a month. That's a lot. Her first victim was Charles Richard Mallory, age 51. He was murdered November 30th, 1989. It was her first victim. He was a convicted rapist whom she claimed to have killed in self-defense.
Okay.
She said that she was sodomized and brutally beaten after being driven to an abandoned area and asked for sexual requests. 2 days later, the Volusia County deputy sheriff found Mallory's abandoned vehicle. Sorry, I looked too far down. On December 13th, his body was found several miles away in a wooded area. He had been shot several times. 2 bullets to the left lung were found to have been the cause of death.
Oh, wow. I mean,
now, if it was self-defense,
totally justified.
It's all horrible, but if it was self-defense, that's one thing. That's one person. Again,
right.
She killed 7.
Exactly. Yeah.
Her second victim was David Andrew Spears, age 47. He was declared missing on May 19th of 1990. On June 1st, his naked body was found on U.S. Route 19 in Florida, in Citrus County. He had been shot 6 times by a .22 caliber pistol. Her third victim, Charles Edmond, don't mess up this name, Carcadon? Okay, that's the best I can do, guys. I apologize. If you know me, I forgot to have things pronounced before I got on this episode. He was age 40. On May 31st, 1990, he was murdered. On June 6th, his body was found in Pasco County, and he had been shot 9 times with a .20 caliber weapon. His body had been
so
wrapped
many times.
His body had been wrapped in an electric blanket and was badly decomposing when witnesses say they saw Wuornos in possession of his car, and Wuornos had also pawned a gun that identified to belong to him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, and like you talked about how many times he'd been shot. If you think about it, they always say that that's like a crime of passion or it's overkill. So either all these people really did something horrible, like the first man was allegedly doing to her, or maybe she had a psychotic break. I'm not justifying it. I'm trying to understand.
Right, exactly. Because it's like, especially let's assume that the very first one was in fact self-defense. Makes sense, being scared, make sure he's down. And so like all the rest, just like reliving that moment.
Right. I
don't know. Or the alternative is just that she's like every other psychopath serial killer, doesn't care.
Yep.
And just does it.
Her next victim, her fourth victim, was Peter Abraham Symes.
I don't know.
He was 65 and he was murdered in June of 1990. On July 4th, 1990, his car was found in Orange Springs, Florida, where Wuornos and Moore were seen abandoning the car, and Wuornos's palm print was left on the interior door handle. His body was never found.
Oh, so did she just confess to that one or something?
It's vague. We'll get there.
Okay.
I think because his car was tied up with it, she had to have confessed, but I could be wrong. Her next victim was Troy Eugene Burris, age 50. On July 31st, 1990, he was reported missing. On August 4th, his body was found in a wooded area along State Road 19 in Marion County. He had been shot twice. Her next victim was Charles Richard Dick, was his preferred name, I'm assuming. Humphreys, age 56, murdered September 11th of 1990. His body was found on September 12th in Marion County, and he was fully clothed, but he had been shot 6 times in the head and torso. His car was found in Shawnee County. Some of these things are hard to say, guys, and I apologize for that. Her next and I want to say final victim. Let me scroll my notes. Her final victim was Walter Antonio, age 62, killed November 19th, 1990. His body was found nearly completely naked in a remote logging road in Dixie County. He had been shot 4 times. 5 days later, his car was found in Brevard County. And on July 4th, 1990, Wuornos and Moore abandoned Seam's car after they were involved in an accident. Witnesses who had seen the women driving the car provided them with their name, a description, and it resulted in a media campaign trying to locate them.
Oh, man.
And like I said, she had also pawned some of his belongings. There were fingerprints.
This was a few victims ago. So like while there's this huge media campaign about her, she's still out there killing people.
Yeah. And she there was fingerprints left on the victim's car. Wuornos had a criminal record in Florida, like we had talked about. And I guess that since they already had all of her stuff in the system, it did a pop on her and they figured it out. On January 9th, 1991, Wuornos was arrested on outstanding warrants at the last resort, a biker bar in Volusia County. Police located Moore the next day in Scranton, Pennsylvania. She agreed to elicit a confession from Wuornos in exchange for immunity from prosecution.
Oh, wow.
That's smart, but shitty.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're involved in something, you shouldn't get immunity for it.
Right.
I don't know to what extent this woman was involved.
Right.
But she was.
It's probably kind of under wraps because of the immunity.
Right. Moore returned with the police to Florida, where she was put in a motel. And under the surveillance of police, she made a multitude of phone calls to try to get a hold of Aileen, pleading to help clear her name. 3 days later, on January 16th, 1991, Wuornos confessed to the murders. She claimed all the men had tried to rape her, and she killed them in self-defense. A year later, on January 14th, 1992, Wuornos went to trial for the murder of Mallory. Although previous convictions are normally inadmissible in criminal trials, under Florida's Williams rule, the prosecution was allowed to introduce evidence related to other crimes to show a pattern of illegal activity. And January 27th, 1992, she was convicted for Mallory's murder with the help of Moore's testimony.
So she only got convicted for one of the murders?
Let me scroll this. I believe so.
Wow.
Now she went under like psychiatric evaluation for the defense, and they testified Wuornos was mentally unstable and diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and 4 days later she was sentenced to death.
Wow.
Wuornos pled no contest to the murders of Humphrey, Burris, and Spears, saying she wanted to get right with God. She wanted to get right with God. Then why did you murder all those people? I don't get people. You can't just like go to a confession booth and be like, oh, my sins are clear. Like, no, that's murder. It's like literally, isn't that one of the testaments that you're not supposed to break?
Right. Yeah.
That's not how it works. And I'm not real religious, so don't come at me, people. I'm just saying, I don't think that you can pray your murders away. In her statement to the court, she said, and I quote, "I wanted to confess to you that Richard Mallory did violently rape me, as I told you, but the others did not. They only began to start to," end quote. Now, on May 15th of 92, Wuornos was given 3 more death sentences. So we're up to four counts of life or like sentenced to death. So they didn't even fuck around. Like they didn't give her life in prison. They said death, which is crazy. In 1992, she pled no contest to the murder of the one I had a problem saying earlier, Skastadon, and she received her final and 5th death sentence. And the defense made efforts during the trial to introduce evidence that Mallory had been tried for rape in the past, and he had intended to commit rape in Maryland, and that he had been committed to a maximum security prison and face a facility that provided help to sex offenders. Records obtained from that institution reflect that from 58 to 62, Mallory was committed for treatment and observation, resulting from criminal charges of assault with intent to rape, and received an overall 8 years of treatment in that facility. In 61, quote, it was observed of Mallory that he possessed strong sociopathic tendencies, end quote. Now, the judge refused to allow that to be admitted into evidence and denied Wuornos' request for a retrial. In 1993, Wuornos pled guilty to the murder of Antonio and sentenced to death. Again, we're up to 6 death charges. No charges were brought against her for the murder of Sims, as his body was never found. So that answers that question. Like she didn't get anything, like there's no justice for that family.
Right. It's like they suspect it was probably her because of the witness accounts of having the car and everything, but there's never been a body found.
Yeah. That I don't know what she did with that body, but that's horrible. Those people deserve to have closure.
It does make me wonder, and this in no means justifies it. Y'all know that, but I don't feel that way. Murder is still bad. If she's okay, she said the first guy 100% raped her. It was self-defense. Everyone else was getting ready to rape her.
But
we think she just got triggered and thought they were getting ready to rape her, and then
she was a sex worker. So as a sex worker, it's kind of what they're doing as a profession. So maybe it was a trigger at that point, like, oh, I can do this, I can do this, and really then, no, I can't. Yeah,
like, oh, they were gonna rape me. Does not justify murder. Just we've talked about this before. We don't glorify murders. We just try to make sense out of things that don't make sense to us.
Absolutely. Now, I would like to point out that she told several inconsistent stories about these killings. She claimed initially that all 7 men had raped her while she was working as a sex worker, but later recanted and claimed self-defense, citing robbery and a desire to leave a no witness as the reason for murdering these people. So basically she wanted to rob them and take their money, and she didn't want to leave any witnesses behind. During an interview,
almost got me then.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy. This woman, like, she owns her shit. There's a lot of people who don't.
I will give her that. Yeah.
Lost my spot. Please hold while I scroll. Yeah. So I mean, she owns her shit. I'll give her that. But then she's also makes up a lot of stuff, so you don't really know.
You don't know what's real and what's not.
What to believe with this woman. Like, for instance, in 2002, Wuornos began accusing prison matrons of tainting her food with dirt, saliva, and urine. She had allegedly overheard prison personnel saying, quote, trying to get me so pushed over the brink by them, I wind up committing suicide before execution, end quote, and quote, wishing to rape me before the execution, end quote. She also complained about the strip searches, the tied handcuffs, the door, like she would kick the door frequently. I don't know, like I have borderline personality disorder, so I know that's not what causes people to behave this way. I'm not saying that she didn't have a reason to act this way. I'm just saying, like, I'm not like overly paranoid about things and making up stories and things of that nature. So
also, without airing all of your shit.
Oh, I don't care.
Because there's a lot of similarities. Like, you also have trauma. She came from a life of trauma. You came from a life of trauma. She has borderline personality. You have borderline personality. It's what we said from probably episode 1. You can have these issues and not murder people.
Absolutely. You can have problems and not be a monster. Murder people. Well, even the murder aside, there's rape, there's beating your children, there's being an asshole to your friends. Like, there's a lot of like areas in life that I could choose to act out, but I don't. And I don't feel the need to blame anything on my mental illness. Oh, well, I did that because I'm sick. No, I'm not. If you piss me off enough, I did it because you're an asshole and I responded to that.
Hey, but you responded without murder.
Right.
And that's the important takeaway here. No.
Her reported last words were, quote, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. June 6th, like a big movie, big mothership and all, I'll be back." End quote. Whatever the fuck that means. So yeah.
With the Rock? Like Dwayne Johnson?
I'll be sailing with the Rock. So I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. She died at 9:47 a.m. on June 6th of 2002.
Wow.
So
what a life.
Or 2003, something.
2.
I believe it was 2002.
She was on a roller coaster from the moment she was conceived.
Yeah, and that's Aileen Wuornos. Now the movie. Oh, that movie will make you feel bad because they show that first guy that she ends up murdering try to assault her. And that makes you feel horrible for her. You're like, oh my God, because like that's a horrible thing to watch. It's not a good feeling thing to see in a movie, like somebody being sexually assaulted. Now, I will say it almost makes you feel sorry for her. Like
you heard me analyzing everything a second ago.
Yeah, it's like she had no other choice. The fuck she didn't. She figured out that it was easier to shoot somebody and take their money and steal their car and go on joyrides and stuff like that than, I guess, to go work at McDonald's. I don't know. And I'm not shaming sex workers, but most sex workers aren't going around murdering their Johns.
Exactly.
Either.
I was about to say sex workers are doing sex work, not murdering.
Exactly. Sorry. I have a lot of bad feelings about that movie because like I said, it paints a picture where you should feel sorry for this woman.
And a lot of times from a film aspect, I can like appreciate that because something I've talked about with you personally before is the TV show You on Netflix. And there are times where you're like, wow, they are a good couple. Then you're like, no, Joe's a monster.
Right. Then you're like, oh, wait,
it's good writing. Right. Like it's good writing in the sense that even you, the viewer who knows the whole story and not just what he shows you, are also kind of falling for it.
Right.
And so it's good writing in the sense of like it puts you, it deceives you, which shows how deceiving these people are. If that makes sense.
I started watching the movie first because I had this problem where if I read things and I know the facts and then I watch a movie, I get really annoyed by it. So I wanted to not be annoyed for 2.5 hours and watching this movie. So I watched the movie first. Mm-hmm. And Christina Ricci's character is very much like this naive, sweet little lesbian. And I love that. Good for her. Except then that girl tells her, Aileen, or Leah, she calls her in the movie. She's like, I murdered someone. She was like, that's okay. No, it's not. Like, I don't know.
So the girlfriend did kill people?
No. Eileen, the
Oh, she said I murdered somebody and the girlfriend has consoled her.
Yeah, she consoled her and was like, it's fine. It's really not.
I'm sorry. I love my husband and I want to be with him till death do us part. But if he came home and was like, I murdered somebody, I don't think I'd be like, it's okay, honey.
No, I'd be like,
the fuck?
I'd be like, and what kind of lawyer do you need? Because I'm out.
Or like, okay. And then that night while he's sleeping, load the kids up and run.
Right. But in the movie, they portray it as though the girlfriend knew about everything Aileen was doing and went through the motions of just spending all the money and doing whatever the fuck she wanted to, while Aileen went out and worked. And by work, I mean murder. So I don't know. It's just kind of meh. The movie, if you don't know anything about the case, it's a great movie. If you find out it's based on murders and like true life stuff, you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my take. That's my case. That's all I got for you today.
I've never seen that, but I just always picture. Yeah, I've never seen the movie. I just always remember the picture going around of Charlize Theron with the no eyebrows.
Yeah, like
she's a gorgeous woman.
I think they bleached them out because there were eyebrows on her.
Right, but it's just like
they were very faint.
You can't really see them. Yeah.
Yeah. And they made her obviously like way tan, but also they painted on like liver spots and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Because she's gorgeous. I was like, there's no way that's actually Charlize Theron. It was, but I don't know. It was a wild ride, this case. I mean, I've never
ride in her life.
I've never covered somebody who's did so many murders before
in a short period.
And this was like a lot to unpack. Like, it's a lot of like heavy emotion on top of it, just knowing that that many people, I mean, 7 people,
like every aspect of it, it's like that's a lot of people in a very short amount of time. Then you've got the victim whose body was never even found, so like their family gets absolutely no justice. Then you take like everything she grew up in is heavy, so it's just every way you look at it, it's awful and heavy.
Yeah, I just kind of took me a few days to put notes together as opposed to doing it all in one setting like I usually do, because it was such a heavy case. I mean, before she ever started murdering, before she ever started murdering, she had a rap sheet as long as my arm, and then not to mention all the trauma she had to deal with in her childhood. It's just it's a lot.
It was just a mess from the start. Yeah
And I hope people know that there's other ways that you can live life. Like, you don't have to murder people. Something you can get away from. You don't have to be a bad person.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what we've really emphasized from the get-go in the show is like, we get trauma and mental illness and all of that. We don't get murder.
I don't. Nope. I don't get sexual abuse. I don't get murder. I don't get physical domestic violence, like any of that. Like, I just, I can't wrap my head around it.
Right.
All right. Now to lighter shit, hopefully. What do you have for me today?
Okay. Well, kind of in the same light as monsters, I guess. But for everyone who knows me, I've always been the vampire person. I've always liked vampires. Interview with the Vampire, Queen of the Damned, which, by the way, I used to have on DVD from when I was a teenager. My older sister had to buy it for me because it was rated R and I wasn't old enough to buy it.
Right.
And then my younger sister took it to her friend's house and I never saw it again. So thanks, Laura. And Lindsey, you probably still have that DVD in your house somewhere. But anyways.
And I'd like it back.
I'm never going to see it again. It's been over a decade at this point.
Right.
But I'm never going to let it go. But so those movies, the Underworld trilogy, and yes, even the Twilight books back in high school. And my friend.
And True Blood.
Oh, and True Blood. Although I stopped watching it when it got weird. I don't know.
It got weird and we all stopped watching it. Like everyone in our friend group, we were just like, you know what? We're good.
But I have to say, for the record, never the Twilight movies.
What?
I just feel like that. I said never the Twilight movies.
Oh, yeah.
I just feel like that's important. But I mean, like my friend Kelsey and I talked about a few episodes ago when we ended up on the Seattle tour underground. We went for the book release of Breaking Dawn in Forks. It was a really cool event. But anyways, and then there's, of course, my running theory that Connor Oberst is a vampire and he's been telling as much to us in his lyrics over the years. So really, it's just been a matter of time before I covered vampires.
Right.
And because I've always loved Interview with the Vampire and Queen of the Damned, look at that, Louis, Claudia, we're going to talk about the vampires of New Orleans specifically.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah. So vampire folklore has been around for ages, apparently as far back as like Greek mythology. But New Orleans is definitely a place that comes to our minds because of Anne Rice and her stories and just the magic surrounding New Orleans as a society, with it being the most haunted city in the US, and then all the different cultural beliefs such as like voodoo and whatnot. So naturally we think weird things, New Orleans. And I mean that in a complimentary way. When I say weird things means New Orleans.
Yeah, like spooky awesomeness.
Yeah. And so I've kind of found a couple of different stories about vampires in New Orleans, and I know that it's not all of them. It can't be, but we're not that long of a show.
Right.
So one very prominent legend that comes out of New Orleans with vampires is the story of Comte de Saint-Germain. And I'm not French, so I apologize if I fucked that up.
It's okay. I couldn't say half the names that I just tried to say, or counties.
For me, it's more the title Comte. Like, am I saying that right? Because there's not a P in it, but it's like the French word for like count, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't know French.
I've heard the title before. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. I inhaled my hair just now.
Yum.
Moving on. Saint Germain was a very prominent man in France who was known by the likes of Voltaire, King Louis XV, and Casanova. They all claimed to have known him. Voltaire even described him as, he is a man who knows everything and never dies. Interesting.
Ooh, that is interesting.
Alchemist. He was an alchemist. So he turned like metal into gold, stones into gems, stuff like that. And he searched for like the elixir of life. And apparently he was a very good alchemist who trained other alchemists. And he even trained an alchemist under Marie Antoinette's rule.
Ooh.
And even though Saint Germain allegedly died in 1784, many of the alchemists swear that they saw him at Marie Antoinette's execution in 1793.
Interesting.
Yes. Saint Germain traveled Europe, throwing lavish parties where guests claimed, find those words, that he never ate a bite of food. He eventually made his way to Germany, where he was the confidant to a prince there and lived in the prince's castle. And then his death was recorded in 1784, but many believe that it wasn't real. Because first of all, the record was very vague. And and like I said, with Marie Antoinette's execution and stuff, people have been claiming to see him after this death, including as recently as the 1970s.
Huh.
Yeah. And so yeah, people did not believe that he died. The rumor was that he actually traveled west to promote spiritual fulfillment, and his first stop, New Orleans. So then, around 200 years after his recorded death, a French immigrant named Jacques Saint Germain moved into a home on Royal Street in New Orleans. While living there, he told stories of historical events in so much detail it was though he was there. He threw lavish parties where he was shown to never eat a bite of food. And he even claimed to be the direct descendant of Comte de Saint Germain.
Huh, that's cool.
And most people didn't really believe him that he was this guy's descendant.
Right.
But when he showed them like the portrait painting that he had of the Comte, people couldn't help but realize they looked uncannily similar and the same age.
Sketch.
And, yes. Apparently Jacques was also a bit of a womanizer. He was often seen with like women on his arms and stuff. And so one night at one of the many parties he threw for the New Orleans socialites, he had a woman with him who then jumped off the balcony.
Oh, shit.
And people saw the woman on the ground. Blood was trickling down her neck. They like rush up to her, see if she needs help. And she said that she had jumped to escape Jacques because he had bitten her neck. And she was only able to escape because he was distracted because somebody had knocked like on his bedroom door. Or whatever room they were on the balcony outside of. Somebody had knocked, distracted him. She jumped off of the balcony to get away from him.
Damn.
So the police came, but then they were like, you know what? It's late. You can just come into the station in the morning and we'll question you.
Did he skip town?
He sure did. Because y'all just let him go. But so yeah, he was gone by morning. The police broke into the home to investigate, and allegedly, one source said this part, but another one didn't. So I don't know. But allegedly, they had found a bunch of like clothes from various historical periods, as though he like had clothes like from his travels over the hundreds of years or whatever, and they had blood on them. But the other source didn't never mention clothes, so who knows? But both sources did mention that the house had no food, not even like any utensils or dishes or anything, just bottles of wine, lots of bottles of red wine. And upon investigation, it was determined that it was wine mixed with human blood.
Ew, no thank you.
Yeah. So they left the question, like, who was he? Was he just this eccentric man who loved like the mystery? Like he loved like the rumors and the attention that it got him of like, oh yeah, I never eat. I'm this guy in the painting, like. Or could he have actually been a vampire, especially with sightings being even later?
Right.
So who knows?
Well, I mean, you know, people say they see Elvis all the time. Maybe he's a vampire too. Just a thought.
Maybe. Another famous story, although it's probably a little less fantastical, but it's still like a popular vampire legend in New Orleans, is the story of the Carter brothers. In the 1930s, on the corner of St. Anne and Royal Street, which, by the way, is it a coincidence that it's Royal Street just like St. Germain?
Maybe.
I've never been to New Orleans, so maybe it's just like a really big main street where a bunch of residences are.
Right.
But I noticed, I was like, oh, these are the same street? What are the chances of that? Is that Vampire Street? No, but anyways, but at that house, corner St. Anne and Royal Street, lived John and Wayne Carter. They seemed normal until the day that a young girl ran from their apartment looking for help with blood dripping down her wrists. When police investigated, they found four others tied to chairs with their wrists cut, as well as dozens of bodies completely drained of blood.
Damn.
Yeah. When the brothers came back home, the legend was that it took all 8 of the police officers at the scene to take them down, despite the fact that they're just average-sized, normal men. But it took 8 men to take down 2 people.
Almost like they had unnatural human strength.
Maybe. They were executed and buried in a vaulted tomb. Years later, when they were trying to add another family member to the tomb, they discovered the tomb was empty. There was no evidence, no trace at all that the Carter brothers were there. So, and like that's the legend. So where did they go? You know, like, are they just out there still being vampires?
Right.
And like I said, let's be real, there's probably so many vampire stories in New Orleans.
Oh, I'm sure. Or just around in general.
Well, yeah, I meant since we're covering New Orleans specifically, but yeah. But some people, I guess, think that there's more like logical explanations of why New Orleans vampire stories got really, really popular, especially like in the 19th century.
Right.
And in that time, like things like tuberculosis and syphilis were kind of running rampant and like really just like ravaging the area. And apparently a lot of physical descriptions that are used to describe vampires in horror stories and like Hollywood and stuff are actually things that you would see resulting from those illnesses.
Oh, like hollowed out looking eyes, got
exactly
pale skin, stuff like that.
And the article I'd read, I talked about the curator of the New Orleans Pharmacy Museum. So he was saying that Bram Stoker was actually influenced for his physical description of Dracula by tuberculosis and like what tuberculosis did on the body.
That's really interesting.
It says, quote, his descriptions of what vampires look like and its effects on the body were taken from direct accounts of how consumption was affecting people.
Huh. I never knew that.
Ever, who the guy's name was Ever. Apparently don't have his first name written, but his last name's Ever, so I apologize for that. It'll be in the link from the sources. But it says that a diagnosis of consumption or tuberculosis was a diagnosis of vampirism back then. In the case of tuberculosis, folkloric methods were used to keep vampire at bay, such as like using garlic, stuff like that. Like, so it's all these things that were like used for tuberculosis then became being like, that's what you use vampires.
Right.
And it's because we learned when we did the Waverly episode, didn't really know what to do about tuberculosis.
Oh no. I mean,
so
I know that they had iron lungs, but I don't remember if that was for tuberculosis or not, but there was so many different
iron lungs, polio.
I knew it. See, it makes sense though. Like in my head.
No, I get it.
In my head,
but the point being,
a breathing disease with iron lung. But anyway, there were so many things that we didn't know how to fix and treat for many diseases over the years. So, I mean, it's all a guessing game.
And then the other side, I'd mentioned syphilis before. And a lot of times in fiction, vampires are like, they're nocturnal, they're erotic, they're sexy, you know? So, of course, syphilis.
Yeah.
STDs. So, but apparently the way congenital syphilis, which is what, like when a child's born and they get it from the parents upon birth.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. That's awful.
But the physical description is like elongated fingers, narrow face, and pointed teeth.
Oh, that's crazy.
So, like stereotypical, like Nosferatu type vampire, it's possible that that's where that came from. It's sad, honestly.
It is sad.
But you know, maybe there's some truth there that a lot of vampire lore is just society's way of dealing with the horribleness of tuberculosis and syphilis in the 19th century. But to this day, there are real life vampires in New Orleans. And it is a community that is much more normal and, in my opinion, heartwarming than the Hollywood depiction of monsters or like even sexy, like Vampire Diaries and True Blood and stuff. I can't believe I didn't mention Vampire Diaries earlier.
Oh, I didn't either. But, I forgot.
Right. Point being, we like vampire stuff. Anyways, so real life vampires are pretty much just like you and me. They're mortal, no superpowers. They're working real normal jobs, have different religious beliefs, different hobbies, like living life, except they have a need. And the need of each vampire differs. Some do claim to need blood, and these are called sanguine vampires. There's others that need sex, which are tantric vampires, or some just need like others physical touch of some sort, and they're pranic, which I might be saying that wrong, pranic vampires. But what it all boils down to is a need for energy. We've all heard the term when you have somebody in your life who just kind of is a negative Nancy, and you're like, God, they're just an energy vampire.
Yeah.
It's like that, but like a real community versus a derogatory thought about the way somebody is, if that makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, they just need energy, and it's and when vampires don't get their like feedings, quote unquote, whether it's drinking blood or just needing to like give somebody a hug, they feel drained. And so
see, I'm the exact opposite. If I'm around too many people, I feel drained.
That's because we're introverts. Oh,
that's what it is.
But no, the founding member of the New Orleans Vampire Association, Czar Ashantison, I apologize if that is incorrect, but he defines vampirism as a physiological condition wherein the afflicted person's body either does not make enough of or any at all the daily essential energies necessary in order to perform daily tasks. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. But don't worry, these vampires are not throwing big lavish parties and then attacking their party goers out on the balcony. They're actually very huge on consent.
Oh, that's good.
Like, they have specific people who are okay with their feedings, whichever types of feedings they are. And like that seems like such a common sense way of doing things, but I really wanted to emphasize that because A, consent should be common sense for anything, right? And B, it shows that real life vampires are not monsters in the night, stalking you in the shadows, you know?
Preying upon innocent victims.
Right, exactly. Or like a lot of things you see like in movies, especially with the more like sexy vampires, is like their beautiful allure in their prey.
And they glitter in the light.
I'm about to say, and they sparkle in the sunlight to dazzle you. No, but you know, like it's not like this hypnosis compelling that you see. It's just like consenting adults, which is great.
Yeah.
And I mentioned before that I felt like it was very heartwarming, which sounds really weird when you're talking about vampires, but it's because the New Orleans Vampire Association is actually very committed to giving back to their community. And one of the main missions has been feeding the homeless.
How awesome.
Right? So for over 10 years, they've been feeding the homeless on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. Czar, who I mentioned earlier as the founding member, started it after he lost everything in Hurricane Katrina. And at the time of Hurricane Katrina, he worked for Target. And when Target found out that he had lost everything, they just sent him a bunch of like food and stuff. And it was way too much food for one person. And so he started giving it out. And so it's been just like a tradition since then for the last 10 plus years, which is just amazing. And
that's fantastic.
And I love this part, and I know you will too. Their next goal is helping the LGBTQ community. And it says NOVA is currently, or it might be NOVA, either way, New Orleans Vampire Association is currently working towards another goal. Our ultimate goal is to have an LGBT safe community, a homeless shelter for LGBT and pagan youth.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
It's amazing. And when I read that, I was just like, oh my gosh. We are going to have the link. We are in no way associated with them. I just came across all this in my research.
Oh, yeah.
I am going to have the link to the New Orleans Vampire Association website. They do have a part of their website where you can make donations if you would like to help support all of their community outreach.
That's fantastic.
So that is fantastic. And if anybody down there hears this, I just got to say, I'm here for it. That's great.
Listen, I think it's funny how people probably make fun of them and, make asses of themselves pretty much by being dicks when they're not giving back to their community. They're probably just sitting at home, doing whatever. But these people who are probably used to being ridiculed for being different are going out of their way to help their community and be a better person. And like, that's just so classy. I love that.
Yes, absolutely love it. Like, I already love vampires for the historical versions of them. And now I just love real ones even better.
Hell yeah.
There's just so much there that is just awesome. And I'm sure even when it comes to the real vampires, there's so much that I haven't touched on. And but yeah, I just had to share, like, that was really awesome. Also, didn't you send me a TikTok video of some vampire store down in New Orleans?
Okay, to be real, I send you like 100 a day. So maybe.
I know you did. I wonder.
Sounds familiar. I spent forever trying to find a TikTok that I wanted to show you that I swear I had already sent you. Going through all of our messages yesterday. I gave up about an hour in. I was like, yeah, I'm never going to find it. I quit.
I'll have to see if I can find it because I remember.
There's a lot of really cool stores. Like my friend Kristen, she used to live in Louisiana and she's been to New Orleans a lot. And she told me that, they have the coolest stores down there. They have some of the most exciting, like unique shopping experiences you can find. So, and apparently really good food that I want to go try.
Yes, I would love to go down there.
Yes, I want to go so bad. So bad. I want to do something, anything. Just like, I don't want to travel all over the place. Like, that sounds scary. That sounds like a lot of money and a lot of time. And
I wonder if this is it.
I've never been on an airplane, so I mean that also scares me. But I could drive to New Orleans.
Been on a what?
Airplane.
You said airplane.
Oh, did my microphone cut out? Because I said airplane.
I don't know. I only heard airplane.
Oh well, airplane.
I'm not sure. I did not find the particular video you sent, but I did just search Vampire Store New Orleans on TikTok, and there is the Vampire Boutique of New Orleans.
Ooh, I bet they sell corsets. That's awesome. But yeah, I want to travel, but I haven't really wanted to travel too much because I've never been on a plane before, and that scares me a lot. Like flying, I want to go to England and France, and I want to go to Scotland and Ireland. Like that would be my.
We said Scotland at the same time.
Yeah, those are my please. Because I want to see Loch Ness, Big Ben, and I want to go to the moors in Ireland. Like these are things I need in my life, but I'm afraid of flying over water.
Yeah, I've been there. It's a little unnerving.
I would have to take my Xanax and just go to sleep.
On the way out there, so the only time I've flown over water like that was when we went to Bora Bora, and the flight out there, I made myself stay awake so I wouldn't have to worry about adjusting to the time difference. But I was in the middle seat of the middle, because they have 3 sections on big planes. So I was in the middle seat of that. And so ordinarily I get really, really stressed out not being able to see out the window.
Yeah, I was about to say there's no views on either side.
But yeah, I just made myself watch movies and stuff and stay awake. But then on the way back, I just slept.
Right. Oh, goodness. Well, Miss Ma'am, it's getting to be about our 2-hour mark of recording. So we should probably stop before we hit our time frame and go over, make all these people not want to come back. All right. Well, like always, stay spooky, listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hey, Anna. Is that a new outfit? You look super cute.
It is. I just went to this really cute store in town called Mainstream Boutique.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a really awesome store. It's like my little hidden secret. It's locally owned by a really wonderful woman named Kim. She's the kindest, most genuine person I've ever met. It's a women's retail boutique that offers a unique selection of clothes and apparel and accessories for all generations. So teenagers to 20 and up, it's magic. I mean, we've talked for years about what do we wear. I don't know what to wear at this age. I don't want to look like a teenager. This store is the store that has changed my outlook on how I appear as an adult.
Oh, that's so cool.
You
said it's a local store?
Yeah, it's local to Shawnee, Oklahoma, but they do ship.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to get on that website. What's their website?
Their website is mainstreamboutique.com. They also have a Facebook page, which is Mainstream Boutique of Shawnee. They're a apparel and accessories for multi-generations. Their mission, which I really stand behind, is to empower, strengthen, and celebrate women in the world throughout fashion. And I think that's so...
Oh, I love that.
And
I'm going right now to check that out, especially if they ship. That's awesome.
It's mainstreamboutique.com or Mainstream Boutique of Shawnee. We'll put all the links in our bio, but I have an exclusive for you guys. Are you ready?
What?
I talked to the owner today. For our listeners only, you get 10% off your full ticket items.
Oh my God.
All full priced items when you ring up, 10% off, whether it's online or in person. And if you go in person, tell them we said, hey, they said to use the code GABB for a discount code. And if you use our discount code, you get 10% off all full price items of your entire ticket. How cool is that?
That is amazing. I can't wait to go check it out.
Well, the next time you come visit me, we'll have to have a shopping spree.
I'm in.
GABB is your promo code. Thank you for listening to Ghosts in the Attics, Bodies in the Basement, a Fearscape Media podcast. Music by Stephen Timperley. Artwork by Laura Ramsey. Find us online at fearscapemedia.com/GABB podcast or on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at GABB podcast or email us gabbpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.